Are we live? I think so. Did it work? Let's get some music going. What happened to that nice background image I had? All right, let's do a test. That didn't work. Oops. Do we have chat? Hello, world. Yes. Okay, this is working. Finally. All right, this should be working now. I moved some things around, so stuff's a little bit different. Let's lower the volume on the ambience. So what are we doing today? Today we are taking notes, on a couple of videos. So let's pull up the first video here. Probably start with this one.
This is Sid Meier's Civil.
Start with a chill one.
This is Sid Meier's.
And let me pull up my notes. Sid Meier's Civ 5 in 2021. All right, I'm just going to jump into this and start taking notes.
This is Sid Meier's Civilization 5, one of the most consistent, overwhelmingly positively reviewed games in a generation of PC gaming. It's a historically inspired, in fact designed, strategy game where players contest for victory, leading one of humanity's most iconic cultures, or indeed civilizations as it were, through the ages of human history. It's a 4X strategy game, so you expand, exploit, explore, and quite possibly exterminate your way to victory. Not only did Civilization 5 become iconic within Sid Meier's some 30-year, 3-decade spanning game series, but also within strategy, in fact I would argue, all of PC gaming. One of the most fantastic games of all time, and you can see that in its reviews.
Okay, so good reception, good reviews. That's the summary.
Today I'm going to take you through why you shouldn't let its 2010 release fool you, some of the different game modes and features of Civilization 5 for those unfamiliar, some of the reasons why its initial release was a little bit lackluster, but its DLC has lifted it to greatness.
Ooh, I haven't heard this narrative before. Initial release was lackluster. This is a common trend in the genre, let's be real. Just talking about this. It's something I talked about in the EU5 video too. The DLC saving, come in to save the day. Just pay more money. Just pay more money and the game will be good. The game you paid for. Just pay a little bit more.
For some of those specifics, and finally, my price and recommendations. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name's Jumbo Pixel, and let's crack straight into why Civilization 5 is probably one of the best strategy games of all time. For starters, as I say, it released in 2010. For a lot of us, that can feel a little bit scary, and for some of us, it might instantly be a turn-off greater than a cold shower. But bear...
Is it a turn-off that the game is old? This came out in 2021. That's how old EU4 is now. Oh no. 11 years old. All right.
With me, okay? So it had 4 years of fantastic support. It is the second most recent game in the Sid Meier's Civilization franchise, second only to Civilization 6, a much different experience. There was a little spin-off in between there, but we don't talk about that.
Oh, we don't talk about Beyond Earth, huh? Yeah, Beyond Earth, I remember being hyped for it, and man, there's so many strategy games that I remember being excited about, and that just went nowhere. It's kind of sad. This is a recurring story in this genre.
In Civilization 5, you could split your time between 3 core game modes: single-player scenarios and campaigns, the single-player sandbox mode, and finally, multiplayer. The single-player scenarios and campaigns are more historically inspired than the rest of the game. The single-player scenarios are very specific. They put you in a very specific scenario, i.e. the fall of the Roman Empire. You're playing as the Romans, try not to collapse. The game is restricted.
I remember I talked about this last week, but do people play the scenarios much? Because I still haven't. I think I've played one ever. I think I said this last week. But I definitely want to try playing them, maybe on stream.
Restricted within a certain period and certain enemies. These modes aren't bad, and by all means, I'd recommend you try them out. In fact, some of them are a lot of fun, but most players won't spend most of their time playing them. They're good for new players or players looking for a specific historical fix or a specific fix with a certain civilization. However, you'll probably find that you spend most of your time in Civilization, just like I'm doing in this video, playing in what's more of a sandbox mode. In this mode, you start in the year 2000 BC. Unless you want to tweak that in the options, you can actually choose your starting era from 2000 BC right the way up to the modern age. But
wait, 2000 BC? I just wrote this section and I said it was 4000 BC. So did this change in the DLCs? I'm like 100% sure it's 4000 BC. I gotta fact check that. Starting date Civ 5. No, not the real in-game dates. Yeah, it is 4000. Maybe he misspoke.
More historically inspired than the rest of the game. The single-player scenarios are very specific. They put you in a very specific scenario, i.e. the fall of the Roman Empire. You're playing as the Romans, try not to collapse. The game is restricted within a certain period and certain enemies. These modes aren't bad, and by all means, I'd recommend you try them out. In fact, some of them are a lot of fun, but most players won't spend most of their time. You spend most of your time in Civilization, just like I'm doing in this video, playing in what's more of a sandbox mode. In this mode, you start in the year 2000 BC. Unless you want to tweak that in the options, you can actually choose your starting era from 2000 BC right the way up to the modern age. But most of the time, you're starting early, exploring a completely open world. A world open for opportunity, filled with threats such as barbarians, non-playable characters, and minor civilizations, but also other major civilizations, these AI players who will be your enemies throughout, or potentially your friends. That's up to you and how you want to play the game. Civilization 5...
even if they're your friends, they're still competitors, right? They're not... There can only be one winner. So I think the word friend here is a little ambiguous. Also, it's pretty hard to stay friends with the Civ throughout most of this game. I feel like the alliances are pretty short-lived.
Also has a fantastic multiplayer mode. Now, it is a little bit flawed, I have to admit. If you're going into this game looking for a smooth, crisp multiplayer experience, then you might want to temper your expectations just a little bit. I'm not saying it doesn't work. It can work really well for a lot of people, and there's still a thriving multiplayer community, but some people do report some issues with it, and a lot of players consider Civilization to be primarily a single-player game anyway.
That's interesting. I've definitely played more. Actually, is that true? I played a lot of Civ 5 multiplayer. I was playing Civ 5 multiplayer last night, and it wasn't... I would not consider it a secondary experience, especially 10 years after the game's been out. But... well, you could argue the opposite, actually. Alright, forget I said that.
Moving on, I have to say, when Civilization 5 first came out, and for those of you who may still be playing just the base game, that's Civilization 5 the vanilla experience without DLC, that version was not ideal. One of the reasons
Who's playing it without DLC today? I got all the DLC for like $5. Okay.
why was because it followed a really popular, fully fledged Civilization 4 that was full of all sorts of features, some of which didn't actually launch with Civilization 5. It felt a little bit blank, and it can still feel that way, particularly for a modern player picking it up now in 2021 or 2022 or whenever you're picking it up and thinking.
So there was like a sense of blankness following Civ 4. Pretty common in these strategy game life cycles where they want to add in features incrementally, and then you just end up with an empty game every time you start a new game.
Man, this game's over 10 years old, I need more, and I've come accustomed to more. Well, I've got good news for you. Civilization 5 released 2 significant expansions, God and Kings, followed by Brave New World. These
200 euros for DLC, yay, yeah, no. 200 euros or 5 euros a month for the rest of time.
These 2 DLCs, priced at the same price as the full game, or the vanilla game, really fleshed out the experience. God and Kings introduced 27 new units to the game, 13 buildings, 9 world wonders.
You hate subscriptions? Why would you hate subscriptions on a single player experience? You must just not care about the developers. I've literally heard this argument, like, oh, it costs money to make the game. Well, that's your problem, isn't it?
For you to build 9 new
I also hate subscriptions, if it wasn't clear. I'm being sarcastic.
civilizations that you could play as or against, and some really fundamental game mechanics that modern day players take for granted. Things like religion and faith, an ability to create your own religion and spread it across the world with various benefits from money to culture to scientific gain and everything.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were mad that Civ 5 didn't have religion at base. And I'm pretty sure Civ 4 had religion at base game.
In between, even some combat bonuses. God and Kings also introduced spies, adding a little bit more complexity to the mid and late game, allowing you to spy on your opponent and steal technologies for them, among other things. A Brave New
Alright, you just mentioned spies.
World was the second DLC expansion pack for Civilization 5, and I have to say, a really, really great one, and it completed the core Civilization 5 experience, and the one that I'm reflecting on, and that everyone else is reflecting on, when we consider this to be a 9 or a 10 out of 10 experience. Brave New World...
What am I supposed to be looking at here? New civilizations, new wonders. Okay. Hoi 4 didn't have the ability to annex vassals before they combined. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember Hoi 4's launch being disappointing to Hoi 3 players. I didn't play Hoi 3 enough to be like invested, but somehow that game went on to being like literally, I think right now it's literally the most played Paradox title, like concurrent players right now. And I think half of that is just the setting and the fact that they made it more accessible than Hearts of Iron 3, because like everyone knows recent history, whereas like some of these older historical settings, like even ancient Rome and Imperator Rome, it's distant enough that if people don't know the setting enough, they're not going to get as invested. Yeah, and it's simple. The simplicity just really helped. And if you've played Hoi 3, like that was not a simple game. Let's see if we can turn the chat on. Hoi 3 scares you? Yeah. Oh, you don't like staring at menus for 10,000 years? Just menus upon menus. What's this? Why? All right, here we got some chat. I don't know why it's... Hold on. Move this over here. Move this over here. Make it bigger. I don't know why it's going down instead of up, the chat, but I don't want to deal with it right now. Let's just keep going.
Shifted the way culture works in Civilization 5. For those unfamiliar, the culture victory previously was fairly lackluster. You just got enough culture, you won the game. You built a cultural wonder, and that was sort of it. In Brave New World, instead of building this cultural wonder and winning the game, instead tourism was introduced, a way to influence other players, influence other civilizations with your cultures, until indeed they are buying your blue jeans. What I mean by that is your tourism overtakes their own culture, you become dominant over them. This changed the cultural victory and the entire way that the Civilization franchise was played. Really, really important for Civ 5, and something that was carried through into Civilization 6, I might add.
So, has anyone ever gotten a cultural victory? And was it fun? That's the question. Because I haven't. The thing with these like late game victories is you have to invest all game, and then you can only like make progress at the end. Yeah, America Simulator. No, it really is a it's a very American perspective on victory. Like, oh, you know, your tourism is high, so you win. It's somehow that's equivalent to like literally conquering the world. I don't know. It's a little strange. But I have to do a cultural victory for this video, so I will be doing one.
Dead. Brave New World didn't just do that, though. It also introduced ideologies, which took basic cultural policies into the modern era. With freedom, order, and autocracy, you could choose how to govern your...
Even the ideology framework is so American. And if you listen to like the opening cinematic, he says something about like the new ideologies threatened the freedom of the world, but some resisted, and it's like it's like the US. The US saved the world.
People, and what bonuses came with that dominant ideological trait. Brave New World also introduced the World Congress, again making the late game, which often is a bit of a drag, kind of boring. Maybe you're being absolutely crushed, maybe you're absolutely dominating. The late game can feel like a drag when the victory feels predetermined. The World Congress was another feature to help reduce that. It added an ability for players to vote and pass.
I skipped Civ 4? I skipped Civ 1 and 2 and 3. And 4. I might go back and do Civ 4. I know some people asked me to, but I haven't played it yet. So the amount of time it would take to produce a Civ 4 video would be like a lot longer because I'd have to learn the whole game from scratch. And I kind of want to capitalize on the Civ 7 coming out. So I want to have something being produced right now. And really the absolute shitstorm that's coming out of Civ 7 has been delicious to watch. So Civ 4, it's on the list. We'll see. That's my answer.
Certain resolutions, embargoing other players and stopping international trade with them. Another feature that was added to Brave New World, by the way. It didn't have international trade before then, but it did afterwards. The World Congress...
What does that mean, international trade? It didn't have international trade.
And stopping international trade with them. Another feature.
Oh, embargoing. Like when you ban certain goods. Baba Yetu? Yeah. Hold on, there's like police outside.
That was added to Brave New World, by the way. It didn't have international trade before then, but it did afterward.
Yeah, I was exposed to the Civ franchise early enough that I got the Baba Yetu memes, but not early enough to actually play the game. But it's interesting that people are saying it's the best game, because you're not the first person to say that.
The World Congress introduced a raft of features that helped to flesh out not only the late game, but also diplomatic features within Civilization, something which the franchise as a whole isn't quite as good at as some of the more depth, grand strategy games that we see out of the likes of Paradox Studios. Brave New World...
I like historical games that have set events and stuff. Civ is too weird for me. Oh. What's weird about it? Like the fact that it's kind of like you just make your own history kind of thing instead of like a pre-existing one. It's like pretty open-ended.
Also, of course, gave us 9 new civilizations to play as and 8 world wonders to build, among many other changes. All in all, the total Civilization 5 experience, that is, the base game with God and Kings and Brave New World, is a fantastically well-rounded strategy game experience. And while Civilization 5's graphics may look dated and...
Cleopatra versus Otto von Bismarck. Yeah, I get it. But it's more like Egypt versus Germany. Or whatever, Russia. I don't know. Do they consider him... yeah, I think they consider it Germany. I think that it's ironic because I think that the leaders and the way it's like there's like this character you can attach to. I think it cuts both ways. It makes new players interested in the game because new players tend to like feeling embodied in a character, especially players who are new to strategy games in general. But for those of us who have played strategy games, it can be a little strange to like have this immortal character that we are that represents the player over thousands of years with these like ahistorical things. So I get it. It's kind of weird. There's pros and cons, but if mechanics are much better, if you're into the mechanics, like the game is the mechanics, you know, it's not the characters. I would definitely recommend trying it out.
And
maybe you should try out Civ 4, like Thrash was saying, and then you can tell me if it's good.
its Art Deco style menus, features, and text might seem a little dated to some. In many ways, the aesthetics of Civilization 5, the art style, is timeless. Now,
Art Deco? You say Art Deco style? Do you think this looks dated? Because this doesn't look dated to me at all. And I don't know if it's like nostalgia. But if a game came out and looked like this today, I would not think that looks old. I would think this is just its own style. Warhammer Gladius. Or Gladius. I haven't even heard of that. Which normally I've heard of things, but I'm not like that familiar with the Warhammer universe. Let's see. Oh, from 2018. Interesting.
That doesn't mean you'll love it. In fact, many people won't. If you're used to a more bright and vibrant Civilization 6 or other game, you might feel like you need some little adjusting to get used to Civilization 5. Likewise with the leader portraits. They may not be up to your modern standards, but as I've said, I feel like, relatively speaking...
Do you guys think Civ 6 looks better than Civ 5? Because I don't. I think it's different. I don't think it's worse. I definitely don't think it's better. 5 and 6 went with the board game route. Civ 4 was more of an actual Civ builder simulation. The leaders act more like their historical counterparts. So they have like, their AI personalities are stronger. I do definitely see the departure after 4, visually and mechanically, from something that's more like a strategy sim to something that's more of like a casual. Not that Civ 5 is like not deep, but it definitely had a casual appeal. That's something I've been writing a lot about. Like even the fact that it's 1 unit per tile in Civ 5 and it's the first game with 1 unit per tile, that was clearly aimed at like giving it more of a chess or like board game, like you said, a feel, right?
It has a timeless look and
timeless look. I agree that it's timeless. I don't know why he started by saying it looks dated.
appeal. One thing that isn't timeless about it, however, is its price. The retail price for Civilization 5, just the vanilla experience, is still a whopping roughly $30 US on.
How much is Civ 5 right now that Civ 7 is out? $30. Still. Hold on. I need a private browser to make sure I can see the real price. That's crazy. So it's $30 for the base game, and complete bundle is $49. And this is US, obviously. US prices. That is crazy for this old of a game. Like even EU4, which their pricing model, you know, not the most progressive, let's say. And I'm pretty sure the EU4 base game is like $5 most of the time. For a game where you go through the ages, either needs a dynamic UI or the basic one. I don't know why he's calling it Art Deco. Yeah, I don't know either. Maybe, you know what might be considered Art Deco? Or like maybe what he's talking about is like the little, you can't really see it on here, but let me just zoom in. Let's zoom in and show you this part. You see these little like the little frames around the UI sometimes have like an Art Deco vibe, but that's the only thing I could think of. There we go. Back to normal.
Steam. When you consider that the base game really isn't enough to compete with modern standards or have a fully fledged Sid Meier's Civilization experience, you really do need to pick up God and Kings and Brave New World, which probably means you're going to be picking up the Civilization 5 Complete Edition, which includes those, plus some other spin-off small DLC packs that aren't worth purchasing by themselves, but add some additional scenarios and civs to players to complete the experience.
Yeah, I would agree with this. I would agree that they aren't worth buying on their own. All the extra civs for like $3 here, $4 there, just to add one more civ to the game.
I really would not recommend buying this game at its full retail price, despite singing its praises. That's not because I don't think it's worth that price, because actually, this is a great game, and I could definitely argue that it's still worth that price, but it's because you can get much better value with Civilization 5 given its age and how many people have already bought it and loved it worth that price.
Was he talking about Civ 6?
Despite singing, really, you're going to be picking up the compete with modern standards or have a fully fledged Sid Meier's Civilization experience, you really do need to pick up God and Kings and Brave New World, which probably means you're going to be picking up the Civilization 5 Complete Edition, which includes those, plus some other spin-off small DLC packs that aren't worth purchasing by themselves, but add some additional scenarios and civs to players to complete the
Civ series is on sale. 4 is on sale with all DLC for $6. All right, I'll grab that. I'm definitely grabbing that. You've convinced me. Civ 4, $3.99. Wow, that is crazy. Complete edition, $6. Yeah. Yep, I'll do it. And let's see, Civ 3. Civ 3 complete, 99 cents. Wow. That will be good, at least at a minimum for footage. The atmosphere of Civ 4 is unmatched. All right, now I'm looking forward to it. But yes, the monetization's always crazy, and I think the reason is that strategy games have like crazy retention. Players play for thousands of hours, whereas other games, the expectation of content is so low, and like, I understand that the developers want to continue monetizing if they're going to continue working on the game. I think that's fair, but it's become a little predatory lately. You know, there's a balance. Units speak their languages, Roman units speak Latin. That's so fun, and that was really common back then, like with Age of Empires and stuff. I was playing Civ 5, and I haven't played Civ 5 in a couple of years. So when I got back into it, I was like, wow, meeting the civs and having them speak like, you know, like Augustus speaks Latin, and Isabella speaks Spanish, and, you know, Montezuma speaks Nahuatl. And I'm like, whoa, it's definitely a different vibe from like a Civ 6 where you have all these like cartoonish characters that don't say anything. And I have a question actually. I read somewhere in my notes, it says that Civ 3 or maybe 4 had like a fake English sound, like a blum blum blum, like where they speak like gibberish. Was that must have been 3, right? Not 4?
The experience. I really would not recommend buying this game at its full retail price.
Civ Revolutions? Okay. Because that's pretty funny too. Sometimes that can be immersive. Honestly, it's not like a negative.
Despite singing its praises. That's not because I don't think it's worth that price, because actually, this is a great game, and I could definitely argue that it's still worth that price, but but it's because you can get much better value with Civilization 5 given its age and how many people have already bought it and loved it. Quite often, Civilization 5 and all of its DLC, indeed the complete edition, will go on sale for 75 to 80% off. You can pick up the Civilization 5 complete experience for around 10 to 15 US dollars. That's the whole game.
Civ 4 won a Grammy? In what category?
The whole experience. If you are interested in any of the following: Civilization 5, Civilization 6, Sid Meier's Civilization.
Baba Yetu won a Grammy. That's fucking crazy. That is crazy. That's a really big deal. I didn't realize that.
PC strategy games, 4X gaming, or indeed any kind of PC gaming, I really, really strongly recommend you check out Sid Meier's Civilization 5, the complete experience, and grab it on special for really what is only the price of perhaps a couple of cups of coffee. You can have what is truly a timeless classic in PC gaming. Thank you very much for watching.
Okay, we got it. We got the idea. Let me pull up the next one. So next, I'm thinking of having the original reviews. So like IGN and GameSpot reviews, which are they're both very short, so we can just do those quickly. Oops. And GameSpot. And then I have like a Ars Technica video with interviews with Sid Meier. That might be interesting to take notes on. One sec. IGN. There we go. Let's turn this back on. Because I want to see what the conversation was at the time with the big reviewers, because, you know, 2010 IGN was not as dismissed as it is today. So it might be interesting to see what they said.
Very few strategy franchises have been revered as Civilization. For the uninitiated, Civ is a turn-based strategy game based around, well, building up a civilization of your devising. Civ 5 has no campaign. Instead, you create a world and jump right in.
Civ 5 has no campaign? What do they mean by a campaign? Like levels? That's an interesting way of putting it.
You guide an entire society and craft their own story, taking them from the dawn of history to the far-off future. Each civilization is led by a great leader from history and gets a few special benefits and units, so it's important to consider what type of victory you're out to achieve before setting your nationality. Do you want to win by war or through peace? The choice is up to you, and it's these decisions that give you a certain feeling of power that few, if any, games match.
Feeling of... Okay, so we're talking about the power fantasy here. Power fantasy. And then you could choose war versus peace. That was the dynamic they're calling it. Okay. Fans did not like Civ 5 at all when it came out. Changed a lot of things. It didn't have fleshed out until after DLCs. Yeah, that seems to be a recurring idea. Is Humankind a Civ-like game? I haven't played it, so maybe Thrash could tell you, but I grabbed it because it was free. But it's definitely related in some way. Maybe someone from the team worked on it. I don't have notes on it yet, but I remember when it came out and it was People were pretty hyped for Humankind, and then it just kind of fizzled out. Which is a recurring thing we keep saying over and over. Not bad, but not that great. Yeah, that's what it seemed like. I didn't remember seeing like horrible reviews. More like just didn't get a lot of traction.
The question is now if Civ 5's gameplay changes and emphasis on
Also, this is hideous. Like, I know I'm streaming, so sometimes it might look bad. This is not 720p. You see?
This is up to you. And the question is now if Civ 5's gameplay changes and emphasis on accessibility make for the best Civ experience yet.
Okay, so they also said there's an emphasis on accessibility. So it sounds like the narrative of like, oh, there's not enough content on release and it's too accessible for new audiences. This has been a thing since Civ 5. That's what I'm hearing. Like 5, 6, 7. It's the same thing over and over. And every time, well, we'll see with Civ 7, but every time they sell more copies. So it's clearly working for them.
Simply put, the presentation in Civilization 5 is phenomenal. The new graphics engine adds a ton of detail, even though the game can be a resource hog at times. But graphics aside, the real star when it comes to the presentation is the game's focus on approachability. Let's face it, Civ isn't exactly the easiest series to get into. There's a ton of options and strategies to wrap your head around. Luckily, Civ 5 includes the advisors from the console title, Civilization Revolution. These advisors specialize in various branches of nation.
Oh, Civ Revolution was a console title? Didn't realize that. Accessibility, yeah. So I need to add a section on these guys.
Building, and are available at any time for players who are confused on how to proceed.
I actually did rely on this when I was a kid playing this game. I remember not knowing literally what I was looking at because, I don't know, things weren't... Forums and wikis were not as common. Like, it wasn't even intuitive for me to, like, go look up stuff. So I would just read whatever these people would say. Be like, well, that doesn't make sense. Or, yes, I'll do that.
Of nation building, and are available at any time for players who are confused on how to proceed. The advisors also clearly mark which buildings they think you should build. Very handy if you want to play a certain way. Every menu...
Make it simple to reel you in, then expensive DLC for 2 buttons. Yep. That's the business model. Civ 5 and 6 sold like... My guess is 25 to 30 million copies. The numbers are very hard to find. There are numbers out there, but they're outdated and they don't include console and blah, blah, blah. So my guess is 5 and 6 combined sold close to 30 million copies. So yeah. And that's not including DLCs. So just imagine how much money that is.
And your interaction in Civ 5 is intuitive, helpful, and a testament to the lessons learned by a developer that's been making these games for almost 2 decades. It's one of the most user-friendly interfaces I've ever used for a strategy game.
Wow, UI. One to 3 were their own thing. 4 was like so 1 to 3 was its own, was one phase. Then there was 4, and then 5, 6, 7 feel like they're like part 2 kind of thing. Visually, I can see that. Like when I say visually, I don't mean graphics. I mean like I've seen gameplay of all of them. Interesting. Nukes.
The real test of a strategy game is its gameplay. Like its predecessors, Civilization V is amazingly addictive, with games commonly drawing more than 5 or 6 hours out of me in a single sitting. Unfortunately, as good as the game is, there are a few changes I don't really care for. For example, they've taken away the ability to force religions and governments on other nations.
It's funny because there's so much games journalism from this time period. Like all the marketing and all the journalism is like, this game is so addictive. I played 5 hours in a row. And today that's just like, you would not phrase it that way. And 5 hours in a row is not as shocking as it used to be. It's just interesting how things have changed.
Culture is now a resource that can be gathered. This
At just 5, exactly.
can then be spent on policies that affect your own civilization. While the
So he's complaining that you can't force religion. Well, you can't do anything with religion. There was no religion.
this does expand the customization options for your own nation, I miss the pure glee of being a jerk and forcing nations to bend to my will.
Bend to your will.
Does expand the customization options for your own nation, I miss the pure glee of being a jerk and forcing nations to bend to my will.
Bend to your will in what sense? Like the religion?
Another problem is that enemy nations are way too aggressive on your borders, which often forces you to go for a military victory. This is fine if you like to fight, but there are a number of ways you can win at Civ, be it diplomacy, conquest, science, or by having the biggest score at the year 2050. Sometimes I wanted to be peaceful, but enemy nations would force my hand. On the plus side,
that was pretty funny. Civs are too aggressive in incentivizing domination victory. Okay. By the way, when I take notes and I say verbatim what the video says, I'm not agreeing. Just to be clear, I'm taking notes on what they're saying so that later I can be like, okay, this source said this source said that, and then so yeah, just to be clear.
the combat system has been redesigned and it's the best of the series. The new system takes the emphasis off amassing giant armies and
Wow, best in the series. How do you feel about that, Thresh? Do you think the combat is the best in the series? I think the combat's good, but I haven't played 4, so can't really compare.
puts it on strategy. It's all about maneuvering your troops to surround enemy forces, choke off key points, or change army formations. As a result, combat is vastly more...
Long story? Okay, so not no, right? That's already positive for Civ 5. If you didn't immediately say, no, Civ 5 is worse, then
satisfying.
maybe it's just different, huh? Yeah, the 1 unit per tile. I have a whole section on 1 unit per tile for the script.
Than it has ever been, feeling much more like a game of chess than a simple game of are my numbers bigger than yours. And beyond that, the core gameplay is still fantastic. It essentially makes for infinite replayability, giving players a simple tool set to craft the challenge they want out of the world over and over again. Civilization V is one of the best turn-based strategy games I've ever had the pleasure.
They tried to make Civ into a total war game. That's why fans got mad. That's really interesting. Which aspects felt like Total War? Because, like, obviously in Total War you can doom stack. Sort of. There's a cap, right, for army, but you can have a giant stack.
Of playing. Whether teaming up with my friends for some multiplayer, losing a whole night of sleep to the game's endlessly replayable single player, or playing one of the inevitable community-made mods, this is one game that any strategy enthusiast should check out. Nitpicks aside, with all the tips, advisors, and tools.
Approachable, great combat, AI too aggressive. It's limited policies. Okay. Imagine Civ development with Total War combat. Problem with Total War combat is it takes like 80% of the playtime of the game. So like if you had to do all the management of Civ and then have to play these giant battles, I think it would be like there might be whiplash. But I've thought about this a lot because when I play Total War games, I don't like the grand strategy part. I only like the battles. Whereas when I play these grand strategy games, actually we won't get into that. That's fine. Campaign of Total War that works not on battles. Yeah. The doom stacking. I got you. Civ 4 lover and one unit per turn is been a big turnoff for me. Really? I mean, I can imagine if like they took Europa Universalis and made it 1 unit per turn per tile. Sorry, tile. I'd be like, what the hell is this? Europa Universalis is completely different, but I can kind of imagine what that would be like. A lot of this stuff is like player expectations, you know? You can really see that in Civ 7 with the response.
In place, this is the first PC civilization that I feel is worth just about every person's time.
Keyword on every person, that part. I think this is fair for an IGN review because their audience, especially at this time, was literally like everyone. So they need to, like, they're not reviewing this as strategy experts. They're reviewing this for the general audience. So that's fair. All right, next up, GameSpot.
I saw our people spreading throughout the land and across the oceans, expanding our kingdom and discovering new people and great riches in faraway lands.
You need to know 2 things about Sid Meier's
God, why is the music so loud in the background of these? Is the audio, like, are you guys struggling with the audio? Because the background music is crazy. With the IGN one and with this one.
Civilization 5. It's fun, and it's gonna keep you up really late.
Again, with the keep you up late. It's crazy. Music was loud. Let me turn down the just turn down the volume of this a little bit since it's like piercing.
No surprise there to fans of the series,
Yeah, there we go. It's better now.
though there are many changes that fans will notice. One of them is that this turn-based strategy game takes place on a hex grid rather than squares. Another is the way combat has changed to become more tactical and more enjoyable. There are other
More tactical and more enjoyable. Giving you the quick summary here.
improvements, changes, and interface adjustments too, of course, but what matters most is how Civ 5 manages to be both friendly for newcomers and complex for veterans.
Yeah. Friendly for newcomers, especially. Audio balancing wasn't around in 2010? I guess not. It's yeah. I'm such a I nitpick my audio so much. Like the EU5 video I just released, I was not happy with the audio, but I didn't want to re-record it because it was short and it's fine. But like, you have no idea how long I spent on the EU4 retrospective trying to make sure the audio sounded okay. Like just doing the balancing, and it's not even like perfect. I'm not there yet, but I hit the mic. I probably spent at least like 40 hours just tweaking the audio. I love Civ history, the series, and its evolution is something to admire. Each game is so different. And we're not even mentioning Alpha Centauri and stuff like that. I'm curious, are you into the spin-off, the spin-offs made by people who used to work at Firaxis, like Old World? Have you played Old World? Now that we're opening the Civ can of worms on this channel, I gotta like, there's all these games that have a relationship to it that I need to kind of be aware of. Makes it complicated. How many hours total did it take to make? Probably around 200 to 300 hours of work. That's my guess. Just the editing was probably about 100 hours. And I'm guessing I wrote for about 150 to 200 hours. And I released it as a 5-hour video, 2 weeks ago. But I actually had a original version of part 1 and part 2 that were released a year ago. And I made those as separate videos and I re-recorded the whole thing, changed the script a little, kind of changed it a lot, honestly, and re-edited everything. So if we add those in, that's probably another 100 hours. So somewhere between 200 to 500 hours of work. And I'm not including the recording because I had 50 hours of recording for U4, but I was just doing that. Like anytime I was playing a game, I would just record for like 2 years before I even started on the script. I was just like recording my games. That's why I mentioned in the video, like some of the recordings are from 2022. And that's also why in some of the clips, I have all the DLCs, some I don't, because like they were a couple years ago and then new DLCs came out and then I had the subscription and then I didn't have the subscription. So it's kind of like a mixed bag. But yeah, that project was pretty big. I don't think the Civ 5 is going to take that long. I have a very clear process now that I'm, trying to like stick to. I think that this video, we'll see, but my plan is to release in like 2 or 3 months. Hopefully by April. Ideally sooner, but we'll see.
Whether you want to micromanage or focus on the big picture, you'll be glued to the screen hours upon hours of thoughtful fun. There are a few annoyances here and there, such as how the game makes military victory easier to achieve than more peaceful brands of success.
Oh, that's a downside for these guys too.
But small quibbles aside, Civilization 5 is yet another fantastic iteration in a series that has constantly exuded quality at every turn.
मैं आपकी शांति की कामना करता हूँ.
If you're new to the franchise,
I played CK2, yeah. I'm not like an expert the way, well, I don't know if I'm an EU4 expert, but I played a lot more EU4. Let's put it like that. CK2, I think I have, I don't remember how many hours I have, but not enough. Like if I was going to make a video on that, I'd have to do at least another 100 hours of gameplay. I have a chart where I have all these games that I want to cover and how long each one would probably take. And like how long I would have to play it before even starting to write. And CK2 was like, I think I wrote 100 hours. So.
Guys, here's what you need to know about Civilization 5. You select a civilization from one of 19 choices and turn by
19 choices, okay.
turn, you lead it from one era to the next with the goal of achieving global domination. There are 4 ways to win: by defeating your enemies using military might, by a cultural victory in which you have set the greatest number of social policies and accomplished the mysterious Utopia project, a scientific victory in which you are the first to fly to the stars, and diplomatic victory in which other civilizations and city-states vote on their support in the United Nations. Well, there is a 5th victory condition as well, to have the highest score when the timer runs out. Each leader gets a bonus from the beginning which supports a particular style of play. Russia gets resource bonuses, Rome gets production.
Yeah, score victory. Okay, nothing to say. Each civ gets bonuses that affect the style of play. Yeah, I would agree.
Production bonuses, the Iroquois get movement bonuses, and so on. From here, you use this bonus to your advantage as you build up territory, build military units, send workers off to collect resources, and enhance your cities with structures that further boost other aspects of the game in progress. You need to think about gold production, trading luxury items with other civilizations, barbarians that roam the lands, the happiness of your citizens, and
Man, he's just listing. Just listing. Don't have time to write any of this down, and it's not like complicated enough that it's worth writing.
a lot more. Everything is intertwined with everything.
What is going on here with these two screens? This is like... What is happening here? We got 2 different... I think this is the same game. Right? It looks like... I don't know. It looks like the same campaign at a different time. Turn 187. I think that's what that says. You can't see the turn over here.
Everything else, and you always need to think a few steps ahead. There's a lot to keep track of, but Civilization 5's interface makes it easy to stay on top of things. When attacking, you get a preview of how successful your attack's gonna be. A single button takes you through.
Were the previews not in Civ 4? I have to check that.
Through each necessary
They were? Okay.
action within each turn, so you never lose track of units.
It's... If they were, then why did... What? Okay. Maybe this is, again, for general audiences kind of thing.
Which is really helpful late in the game. You can automate your workers and set your citizens to focus their efforts on a particular goal, like gold or culture.
Again, this is 720p and it looks heinous. What is going on with the resolution? And it's like stretched too. It looks like they recorded it in 480 and it's upscaled like artificially. It's not even 480 though. It's like it's stretched yeah, it's stretched horizontally. So I don't know what resolution this is supposed to be. Civ 5 combat is still dice rolls modified by unit strength and other modifiers, right? No, there's no dice roll. TVs back then weren't high resolution. It's true. I'm not expecting it to be high res, but it's not even the resolution that it says. Like the video is set to. Like 720p is not this bad, but it's weird. But there's no dice roll. Like the Civ 5 combat is the strength of the unit and then multiplied by any like malices or bonuses. Like crossing a river gives you minus 20%. And then there's some kind of math on the strength of the target unit. And then it just kind of, It's deterministic, is what I'm saying. I don't think there's a dice roll. No, I know they recorded in whatever resolution, but what I mean is when you record like at a certain resolution, right? And then that file has it in the metadata. This is 720p, this is 1080p. And then YouTube will tell you, like, YouTube recognizes that file and shows it over here. So like if we lower it to 360, it downscaled something. What I'm saying is I think they upscaled. They actually recorded in 360 and then did a fake upscale because 720p looks better than this usually. That's what I'm trying to say. In 4, you have a chance to win based on your unit's strength versus the other unit. Plus, it's a percentage. Odds of victory. That's pretty common, right? Like, that's actually a huge change if you think about it. Going from like a dice roll base to a all or nothing, win or lose. Really? I really need to play 4. That sounds really frustrating if you just roll badly. One unit per tile made the AI dumber as well. Okay. You know what we'll do? Maybe we'll do a stream where I play Civ 4. Let me just plan that out, and like I gotta make sure the recording would be good and stuff. But yeah, that might be good, right? Because that way I can be told what to do by chat.
Some of the interface could have done with a bit of cleaning up, such as the diplomatic overview, where you have to identify the little icons to figure out which luxury resources other civilizations are harvesting. But whether you—
Wait, what? Diplomatic overview? And then they show this, which is not what they're talking about. You don't need to... You can hover over icons and it will... This is weird. I'm not sure what he's talking about here. Let me write it down and then I'll check it later. All right, I'll definitely do a Civ 4 stream. Either probably next Saturday. That's my guess. Oh wait, Saturday is the 15th or the 14th? I don't know, but I'll let you know. Carpet Doomstack. Yeah, it's funny because when I played EU4 for the first time, I tried to carpet because I was used to Civ 5. So I just split my army into a bunch of tiny units and sent them in one at a time, and they all got killed because that's how EU4 works. So that was pretty funny.
But whether you're new to the series or an old veteran, it's a snap to keep track of things so that you can focus on the big picture. Of course, if you prefer to get your hands dirty and command your workers to build every road and every farm without any automation, you can do that too. The AI does a pretty good job of making decisions, and your advisors are always there if you need a bit of guidance. The main AI issue is the way units set to automatically explore will think nothing of wandering into neutral territory. Doing so damages your relationship with city-states, which are another new addition. It would have been
The interface here looks so different.
nice to toggle whether or not auto-exploring units should enter neutral territory on their own.
I don't know what he means by neutral territory. If a city-state owns it, it's not neutral. It's city-state owned, right? Also, I don't know about you, but I haven't been in a situation in Civ 5 where, like, oh, this is a captured city. That's why. I was gonna say where you have a three border here like this with cities this close to each other, but these are both captured. It's Beijing, Guangzhou, Shanghai. These were all Chinese at first. And Montezuma took this and Russia took this. So that makes sense.
If you've played Civilization before, the two most noticeable changes are the switch to hexes instead of squares and the inability to stack your units. If you fear change, don't worry. These are both positive changes that give movement more flow and make battles more tactical. With
Vox Populi mod. I will cover some mods, yes. So I'll write it down. Because I want to cover the Lek mod as well. Because I keep hearing people talking about it these days. And I didn't really know it existed because I haven't played Civ 5 in a few years. So that will be on the list. I don't think I'll cover modding that much, but I will cover it. They say it's a definitive Civ experience. Vox Populi or Lek? Because Lek is for multiplayer, I think, right?
these tactical battles layered onto the strategic map, you need to be more conscious of your unit's weaknesses and strengths and consider your location and weapon range. Furthermore, units level up and you can grant them terrain bonuses, range of sight bonuses, make them more effective against certain types of units, and so on. Conversely, you can also fully heal a unit upon leveling, which can come in mighty handy if the timing is right. Additionally, many units can fortify until healed if you're able to move them to safety. All of these additions make for fun and sometimes tense tactical battles in which you must constantly be aware of which units you're sending to which hexes. And it's a good thing using Brawn is always so enjoyable, since even seemingly peaceful civilizations will attack if they perceive you to be any kind of threat. Typically, aggressive nations like China may go from being ally to enemy quickly, and simply defending yourself from invasion might prompt other friendly nations to attack you because you are a threat to them.
I honestly have never had this happen, but maybe I'm not playing on a high enough difficulty.
All of this when you were just trying to focus on a peaceful victory.
Or maybe this guy just didn't build literally any army, like at all, not even one unit to defend the city. I'm pretty sure Osaka is the second city that Japan founds after Kyoto. Or maybe it's Tokyo, then Osaka. I'm not sure. But it's one of the first. Oh, Tokyo's here. Is this guy getting invaded? No. Also, I realized that he's playing on a real life, what is it called? Earth map. And he's located in South America here, which is pretty funny. Unless he's playing as China.
You because you were a threat to them. All of this when you were just trying to focus on a peaceful victory. Cultural threat to them. Simply defending yourself from invasion might prompt other.
No, he's just getting wrecked by China. Okay. I'm gonna do a couple of deity runs for the video, so don't worry about that. That's definitely gonna happen. Right now I'm playing on King because I haven't played in a while, and it's been pretty fun. It hasn't been like boring, but it's definitely been easy to not get killed. Let's put it like that.
Other friendly nations to attack you because you were a threat to them. All of this when you were just trying to focus on a peaceful victory.
King and prince are the same. Okay. Yeah, it's been a little unchallenging, but it's okay because I'm mainly just getting footage for the early stuff right now and like doing initial research on the basics. Like I'm drafting the sections right now on like city, like literally what are the cities? How do you develop your economy? Talking about some of the like narrative perspective of the game, especially in the early game. So I will definitely be turning it up, either Emperor or Immortal, and then I'll do a couple deity runs as well.
Cultural and other less bombastic wins are certainly possible, but the AI does skew to the domination side, which can make your less aggressive plans ring a little bit hollow.
मेरे दोस्त, क्या इस इंतजाम में आपकी दिलचस्पी है?
The addition of city-states is an interesting one. These individual AI-controlled cities function like mini-civilizations with...
It is too hard. Okay. I've seen like videos on deity strategy. It seems extremely like rigid. You have to do this at this time. You have to do that. But I'll ramp up slowly. So hopefully by then I'll be a pro.
Limited diplomatic options.
Oh, I was gonna write something. What was I gonna write?
Make your less aggressive plans ring.
Oh yeah, that the AI is aggressive apparently.
A little bit hollow.
मेरे दोस्त, क्या इस इंतजाम में आपकी दिलचस्पी है?
The addition of city-states is an interesting one. These individual AI-controlled cities function like mini-civilizations with limited diplomatic options. By gifting them with gold or doing tasks for them like defeating nearby barbarian camps, you'll come into their favor. Once you're allies, they may gift you with units and they will fight at your side if you go to war. On the other hand, you could royally tick off a competing civilization that has become allies with a particular city-state if you aren't careful. And if you're particularly aggressive against these regions, all of the city-states might rise up against you, which also means you'll have major civilizations breathing down your neck too. City-states have a more subtle effect than you would hope for at first. In the early game, for example, the gold expense to befriend one just isn't worth it because your relationship will dissolve quickly. But in mid and late game, they can become a greater help, taking pressure off of you and casting votes in the United Nations if you're hoping for diplomatic victory. For what it's worth, religion is gone, and you could argue that city-states have a similar role in the overall scheme of any given game.
So I think at launch they called it the United Nations, and I remember it being called that, and then in Brave New World is when they started to call it World Congress. Is that right? Maybe it was God's... No, yeah, I think it was Brave New World. AI doesn't get smarter, just more cheats. Yeah. That's the usual for these kinds of games. Have you seen the EU4 difficulty levels? Because on very hard, it just gets like 30% more money, more manpower, more everything, reduced tech costs. Like, it's just, there's no AI difference. I think that there's a little bit of a personality difference in EU4 very hard difficulty. Like, I think maybe they're a little more aggressive, but mainly it's just people don't want to like, no one plays hard mode in EU4. Most play normal. Yeah, it's true. But I've seen a lot of streams where people do hard, and I've played, it's more like a challenge run. It's not really like a normal playthrough. Why'd you go from Sako to Zako? You want to know why? For search engine optimization. Because Sako with an S is a gun manufacturer. I think they're from Finland. So So on YouTube, it was just like all guns when you look up.
Not always essential, but different
So it made more sense. Also, it's cooler, right? For a YouTube channel, maybe?
enough to add flavor and have subtle but noticeable effects if you use them to your advantage. There's so much to talk about in a big game like Civilization 5. It's wonderful to look at. Your fellow leaders that appear on the screen look fantastic and have a lot of character. Leonard Nimoy no longer provides the voiceover, but the narration still strikes the right serious but soothing tone.
Serious but soothing tone. Interesting. Serious but soothing? It made you think of Avatar. I literally just watched Avatar for the first time like a week ago. It was very, very fun.
Wonders, banks, gunships, hoplites, submarines, elephants, incense. These all have a place in a typical game of Civilization 5. For more information, check the written review because it gets into more detail than I can here. But
Yeah, I meant The Last Airbender, yeah. Blue Aliens I saw when it came out, but Last Airbender I never watched, and then I just watched it for the first time. It was very relaxing because I had been watching, like, I rewatched Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and those have like a very different vibe. So I was watching like some chill stuff instead.
know this, Civilization 5 is another impressive turn-based strategy landmark that will keep you clicking from one turn to the next, only to glance at your watch and discover that what felt like an hour turned into 6.
Oh no. We've never heard this before. Keep you clicking. One hour turns into 6. It's actually crazy how often these reviews say this.
That's the mark of a special game. Of course, previous Civ games have had the same effect, but what makes Civilization 5 worthy of the series is that it retains that addictive nature without simply resting on its laurels. The result is fresh and exciting, and a game that will delight newcomers and experts alike.
Retains addictive structure, but fresh and exciting. Is there value in just like, if you know, oh god, it's not gonna make you watch ads. Hold on, we're not doing that. Playing the ad but you can't hear it. I could have just muted it. Why did I? Oh, here we go. Fucking ads, man. All right, now we're done. So this next one is 12 minutes, Ars Technica interview with Sid Meier. Do we want to do this right now? Yeah, I think I'll do it. I need to get my notes ready. Hold on. Oh. It's worth wondering if a game changing just for the sake of changing is valuable. And what I mean by this is, like when games release sequels that aren't different enough from the original, people say, oh, it's like they just re-released the same game. And when people release games that are too different from the sequel or from the original, then people say, oh, it's too different. And I wonder, Rosenkreutz made a video on Civ 7 talking about this. How it has like this fresh feel, even though it has problems. I wonder if freshness has value, you know, in itself. And I don't know. It probably comes down to a player expectations thing.
So allegedly, there's a bug in my code where Gandhi is kind of set up to have a very low aggressiveness rating. If something happens in the game to kind of reduce that a
Nuclear Gandhi.
little bit, it wraps around.
People hated Civ 3 too? Really? Civ 3, then Civ 4. Really? 3 was regarded as the worst in the series? That's kind of funny to me because I have Oh, we're dropping frames like crazy. Or are we? Are you guys having any problems with the stream? It's funny that you say that because I have a clip that I'm going to put in the video of the lead designer on Civ 3, can't remember his name, talking about how how the hardest part of Civ 3 is like, oh my god, the stream is going crazy. I can see it. How the hardest part of making Civ 3 is living up to the expectations of 1 and 2. And now you're saying 3 is regarded as the worst? That's really funny. I mean, it's sad for the guy, but it is what it is. Interesting. 2 is seen as the best. 2 is the first. It's funny because 2 is the one that came out when Sid Meier founded Firaxis. So they made 1 with Microprose, and then Sid Meier and the 2 other developers from Microprose left and founded Firaxis. And Firaxis, their first game was Civ 2. Or I don't know if it, pretty sure it was their first game. At least their first Civ game was Civ 2. So it's interesting that that would be, you know what I mean? It's like the narrative of like the tinkering in the garage was like the original, like the best form, like when the art was still art and there wasn't the corporation behind it or whatever. It's like poetry, it rhymes.
To become like the largest integer number, where he becomes very aggressive and kind of leads to this nuclear confrontation. It's possible that I put a bug in there, but it was not intentional. Hi, I'm Sid Meier, the creator of Civilization. This is how we built a game that makes you want to take just one more turn.
Just one more turn. Oh, man, I should call the video Just One More Turn. Maybe that'll get fucking clicks because that is like their go-to line.
Microprose actually kind of started as a flight simulator company, and after a while, I kind of felt we had exhausted that genre and wanted to try new things. So we made Pirates, we made Covert Action, Railroad Tycoon, and then eventually Civilization. Civilization actually evolved out of a couple of projects that we had done previously. Railroad Tycoon.
Back when games had huge books for the game. I have the screen went white because I pulled it up, but I have let me see if I can get this real quick. What is this called? Civ 5 manual. Look at this. This is in the Civ 5 game files, even on Steam. You go into your game files, you can find this 230-page manual. Look at that. And it's very handy when you're writing an essay on this to have something like that you can just look at, because you discover things. And I'll give you an example of something I discovered that was pretty hilarious. If you look at technology, what do you think of when you think of the tech, the currency for tech, right? It's science. And maybe you'll know because you played Civ 4 and sounds like the other ones too. But in Civ 5, the science currency is beakers. What is this? Beakers. 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 3 beakers. Wait, you're calling it Art Deco too? Okay, what is Art Deco about it? Because I just watched a review that said Art Deco, and I have no idea what they're talking about. Seven's struggle in this regard is baffling. Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, the metal swoops like these things, right? These little... That's what I thought. Okay. I'm not an architecture person, but this vibe here, the framing of the UI. Here. Okay. Yeah, why did they call it beakers and not science? Every other game calls it science. Or at least I actually only checked Civ 6, but Civ 6 definitely calls it science. So why is it beakers? And then I was talking to someone about this, and I was like, wait, is production called hammers? That can't be true. And no, production is production, food is food, gold is gold, and science is beakers. Maybe this is stupid, but I find that absolutely hilarious. I cannot deal with that. Oops. These are my notes. There we go. Where's the video? Here it is. If it has metal swoops and muscly guys made out of geometry, it's Art Deco. Okay, so even the icon art is Art Deco. Okay. I'm going to quote you on that. Because I have a notes section on the art style. Let me write that down before I forget. Okay.
And I think is probably the primary one that kind of was our first so-called God game, a game which was more about building than it was about blowing things up. And
okay, so in the Civ 5 behind the scenes documentary that they made, he says the same thing. He says, we wanted to make a game that was about building, not blowing things up, right? And then in the next sentence, he says, building a civilization, conquering the world. I'm like, which is it, right? Is conquering building? But I think he's comparing it to the games he made before Civ, like the flight sim games.
And I remember Bruce Shelley and I were on a train ride to New York for some event, and we said, well, that was fun. That was a fun game. What should we do next? And it was like, well, what's bigger? What's more epic? What's cooler than railroads? How about the story of all of Civilization? Civilization is a game that allows you to experience 6,000 years of history, starting very small with a first city. You can.
Okay, so even at Civ 1, it started at the same 40,000 BC, 4,000 BC.
Control a civilization, you explore the world, you interact with other leaders, you develop technology to expand the things that you can do, you engage in military operations. sounds very complicated, but everything is done in a very understandable way, and it starts.
So his key design philosophy is always like understandable, accessible, like, you know, new players can pick it up. That's always his talking point.
Small and kind of layers on these additional elements as the game progresses, so you feel kind of in control. The idea for a tech tree, which I think was unique and original to Civilization, came.
What? Did Civ invent tech trees? I'll have to check that. That's a pretty big claim. Learn a bit of history too. Yeah, that's something that people recurringly promote, is like experiencing history, learning about history, etc. That's why the in-game, like, there's this in-game text dumps about history that you can read, like the Civilopedia, and when you click on your leader, there's like the history. It's part of like the narrative framing of this game, right?
Came from a book that I was looking at. This one had kind of a timeline.
Sid Meier invented technology. Dude, he's the guy.
Of history in it, where it would lay out different political advancements or social policies or military.
So in the streams, I'm more chill, right? Clearly the way I'm talking is more relaxed. I'm not as analytical when I'm talking live. But this right here, with these categories, this is activating the part of the brain where I start to critique. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to write down a note, but critique away. Yeah, the thing with that is I don't have it ready. Like, that's the problem because I have to think about it. But here, I'll just spitball. I think that when I look at this and I see like these simple narratives, right? Simplified narratives. Earliest surviving fragments of the Sumerian Empire Sumerian epic of creation. Okay, that's actually not a problem at all. But these are a list of artifacts, and they're categorized in these time periods. And then that way, that's a narrativization, right? Again, that's not a bad thing. Like, people always say, oh, like, you're denying the facts in history. No, that's never the point. I'm just saying the facts you choose to represent are the narratives you're adopting, right? That was the whole point of the U4 video. And it's going to be interesting to look at, if I can find this, what the sources were for a lot of these things, or what, maybe not the sources, but you know, in the U4 video, when there's that section on the wheel, I've probably gotten more criticism of that fucking wheel conversation than I've gotten for everything else combined. Not so much on this version of the video, but like the one I made a year ago, the early draft, let's say. Like, people are very attached to rigid narratives. So you got the Sumerian epic of creation, you got Egyptian astronomers, you got Bronze Age. And I don't know if this is supposed to be like time passing this way or this way, honestly, because Eye for an Eye is Hammurabi, right? So I'm guessing it's this way, downward. Anyway, in any case, like, bronze wasn't worked everywhere. You know, it creates these universal narratives that aren't applicable everywhere. Here you go. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Carry things. And I went kind of with my yellow marker, went through that book and said, okay, bronze working is here, iron working.
See, bronze working's here, iron working's here. It's not true. These aren't fluid. These aren't.
Gunpowder, that almost became the template for the tech tree. And it just felt like a very easy to understand mechanism for showing the player.
This is amazing for the video, this section. Because the tree, similar to U4, obviously, the tree is linear. Like, it's not just a tree with prerequisites, but it's a tree with a temporal vibe. Like, yes, you can be ahead in tech. You don't have to get the techs at a certain date, like in U4. You're kind of restricted in U4. But in Civ 5, the texts have a date that they're narratively supposed to be representing, and that narrative comes from a specific reading of history that we'll need more research to define it, but that's the point.
How things are connected, giving them kind of an insight into the future, giving them goals and things to look forward to. Two steps down the tech tree, I can get to this, and it felt.
The second part he's talking about is more like a game design reason, which is nice. Because you're making strategic choices. You're like, oh, do I take this path or this path? I want to prioritize getting my farms to do better because I have more farms, whereas a different game, maybe you have more gold, so you want more gold or whatever. You know what I mean?
Felt like just something to very much hang the structure of the game on. That's something that would start simple and again grow and grow and grow as you got further and further into the game.
Start simple, yeah. Starting simple is the core of Civ. And I think it's really what differentiates it from a lot of other strategy games, because you cannot start simple in most strategy games. Like in Total War, you have to learn. There's a barrier to entry, right? It's lower than other games, I would say. Age of Empires, you start and you just start. You don't know what's going on, too bad. EU4 is like the worst. You start and everything's happening as though you're not even there. So when Civ comes out and provides an experience that can slowly ramp up, I think that really pulls in new audiences. Because game audiences can learn anything, right? They just need to be helped along.
Every game is different. Every game is your unique story about how you guided your civilization from antiquity into the space age.
Anytime you try to teach someone EU4, you feel this, yeah. I've taught multiple people EU4, and every time I do it, I'm like, ignore everything about this part of the game. Ignore trade. Usually trade, I say, just completely ignore it. Focus on learning the military. And then I say, ignore this, and then learn that. And then ignore diplomacy. And then slowly, okay, you can do this for this and this for this. And then they have to create this giant map in their brain of everything that's going on. When I first tried to play U4, I didn't like it because I didn't know what the hell was going on. I don't think anyone likes U4 when they start. I can't imagine that. I don't know how people get over that. I don't remember how I got over it, but eventually I just wanted to play it enough that I learned. But it's something that Civ is so much better at, is pulling in new players. Or not even new players, but pulling in any player and making the game appealing before you start playing. U4, when you look at it, I don't think that looks appealing. It's just a bunch of numbers. Being in middle school and having infinite time to play definitely helped. Yeah, I would not play U4. I would not learn to U4 right now. I know that. Kids are still playing Civ 2 to this day. I believe it. I mean, even just the progression, like even if you don't know the mechanics, the fact that you start with nothing in Civ means that you only do things as you learn them. Whereas in U4, no matter what, you start with something and you don't understand it. Like you start with neighbors in U4. In Civ, you don't start with neighbors. You go find them and then, okay, now you have one neighbor. Oh, and now you have another neighbor. You know what I mean? It's like everything is like progression based. But he said something interesting here I wanted to write.
So we have this phrase, which is the Valley of the story about how.
Oh yeah, the story. Every campaign is your story. Right, what's this Valley of Despair?
So we have this phrase, which is the Valley of Despair, that every project seems to go through this Valley of Despair, like halfway through. You know, this game is not.
Oh god, the Valley of Despair is so real. I had this with the EU4 video. And every project I've done. Let's be real. For me, the EU4 video is like from May to August of 2024 was just horrible. I could not work on the video.
Not fun. Nobody likes it. I can't figure out how to make this work. It's not working. Nobody likes me. I don't know. Nobody will talk to me. This is terrible. Civ went through that in the kind of transition between the real-time version and the turn-based version. So our first approach to this grand topic of civilization was inspired a lot by SimCity, the idea of zoning part of your map to build a new city, maybe creating a zone over here for farm.
Okay, the SimCity influence. And this is where we're getting into the title here, the RTS. Just professional Hearts of Iron 4 players who still have no idea how the Navy works. I don't think it's that complicated. Is that not? Maybe that's not okay to say. I don't have that many hours in Hearts of Iron, and I feel like I understand the Navy. Maybe not like at a pro level, let's say.
Farmers, and having everything happen in a kind of a real-time process where you watched it gradually grow, and now you're ready to zone this. Maybe you want to zone this area for mining. And
this real-time, quote unquote, they're not talking about real-time strategy. I was imagining like Age of Empires real-time strategy. He's thinking more like Banished. That's not a good example. Or like, what's that new game that just came out? What the hell is it? That new city builder medieval game. I can't remember.
You'd kind of do these things in the first prototypes that we created. You do these things and kind of sit back and watch it kind of happen, and that was kind of okay, but it really didn't engage you as much as we really felt the game needed to.
Yes, Manor Lords, that's it. Manor Lords. I really want to play it, but that's what I meant by like real-time strategy. Like, when I read this title, I was thinking that Civ was going to be real-time strategy in the sense of like in Age of Empires, they're quick matches, right? Where you compete. Whereas it sounds like more like a Manor Lords thing where you feel the growth slowly over time.
So we actually put that prototype away for a while, and we completed another game, which was Covert Action, which I'd started and also put away. But I think actually Bill Staley, our president, was part of it. He said, "Sid, you need to finish that Covert Action game," which was probably a good thing because that kind of took us away from the real-time zone-based version of Civilization. The conceit behind that game was creating an interactive story. The idea of creating a story, but that was going to turn out differently each time, and it was kind of controlled by the player. You know, interactive literature, an interactive spy story. And what we derived from Covert Action was...
No! God. All right, you can watch the ad, but no sound. I'm not gonna torture you with that. You know what? No, we're not doing this. Just wait a sec. So he was saying it's like they were trying to do an interactive novel with covert action. Which is, yeah, I can see that in the Civ series. The idea of like having interactive story unfold. I think that's all strategy games have this in the background. It's just how much they lean into it. All right, we're back.
And what we derived from covert action was what we call the covert action rule, which was a failing we thought of the game, was that these action sequences were kind of intense and immersive enough that by the time you finished them, you had kind of forgotten, you'd lost the thread of the plot. You know, what was going to happen and what was I trying to prevent, or when is that going to... So it was almost like, you know, two good games in one package actually kind of conflict with each other. So it's interesting to think what...
So the macro and the micro narratives conflicting. Okay. That's kind of what I was talking about with Total War. That's how I feel about Total War games. That's why I don't play them that much. I love the battles, but I feel like the grand strategy part, I can't invest like 40 minutes into a battle and then switch gears into this macro level maneuvering, and then sometimes on the next turn I'm back in a 30-minute battle. Like the whole like time, the pacing of it feels really weird to me. So every time I start a game of Total War, I just end up abandoning it and playing like the battles instead.
Would have happened if Civ had never become a turn-based game, if it had stayed a real-time game. I think a good example of that is Age of Empires.
Oh, the first Age of Empires came out after Civ 1. And I'm pretty sure the creator of Age of Empires worked at Firaxis. So
at the time, we could have never had that many units running around on the screen, and we didn't have the technology to make an Age of Empires. Had we had that technology, maybe we would have gone in that direction. But it's interesting to just compare Age of Empires with Civilization. I mean, Age of Empires focuses on a smaller area. The individual decisions are more minute. So in order to keep the complexity under control, it focuses on a shorter period of time and a smaller area of the world, of the map. I think those are smart decisions. I think there's a certain amount of complexity that the player...
And more recent games have been more in between. Things like Manor Lords, where you do the micro, but you can also do slightly more macro, right? And I think we'll get to the point where you can do Civ that also has micro. Not complete micro, but not Age of Empires like moving individual units, like individual people, but something more micro-y.
Can kind of enjoy, and there's a larger amount that becomes work. So I think that trying to do a real-time version of Civ that tried to cover the expanse of what the turn-based game does would just be completely overwhelming. I think the turning point for Civ was when we switched from real-time to turn-based, and that really only happened because I finished another game in the interim. I put the real-time version on the shelf, finished Covert Action, and kind of came back to it with kind of fresh eyes, and had this idea about making it turn-based, making it giving a lot of different things to do, control individual units, etc. And that was what really made the difference in the game. Probably what triggered that in my mind was having played a game called Empire, which had the characteristics.
I gotta write that down. 1977. Wow.
Of unveiling, exploring a map, and had individual units moving around. And I kind of remember that those aha moments of another enemy unit showing up, and you say, "Oh, they're over there."
Would it be better if I could show what notes I'm taking in these streams? Would that make the experience better? I might do that next time. Yes? Okay. That's a good answer. I'll do that for the next one. Because I have to crop it right and get everything right. But that way I'm not like pausing and then getting distracted over and over. Okay, good plan.
There, now I see how this is going to work, or the kind of immersion that moving individual units gave you. I realize
You'll all critique my note taking. Let me try do it now. Let's see if I can do it quickly. Duplicate. Oops. Oh. Pro streamer moment. Let's turn the Skyrim music up since I'm doing shit. Let's see what we can do here. Oops. So where are my notes? They are here. Let's crop this. And there's nothing I need to worry about with there's no sensitive information, so it's always good. Pen and paper? What do you think I am? How's this? All right, that was pretty easy. You thought I was professional? Why would you think that? Why won't it center? All right, let's do something like this. The video is going to be smaller, but I don't think that's a problem. Is this too weird? Okay. Is it going to break if I scroll? It does. Whatever, I'll just keep an eye on it. This should work.
realized that was something was missing from our original prototype, and we slammed it in there, and all of a sudden magic started to happen. Civilization is
Wait, so you thought I was gonna do pen and paper and somehow show that? Wait, I'm gonna have like a camera. No, this is so good because then I can search. So let me show you guys. This is like a completed. This is the IGN one I just did. Once I take these notes, then I create these links, right? And then I can click on these links, and it'll generate. Let me give you a better example. So this is the page for Civ 5, and it'll have all these references. So then I can trust me. I didn't do this with this EU4 video, and it has been so good for Civ 5. Yeah, this is Obsidian. No plugins, nothing, just base Obsidian. Actually, there's a couple plugins, but they don't do anything. I have one for like word count, and that's about it. Let me show you the macro. This is the Obsidian graph of all of my notes right now. Not that big, but I've only been working on this project for like a week and a half, so it's kind of crazy. RTS game. Okay, here we are.
is now known for the one more turn phenomenon. And
Oh, he said the thing. He said the thing. $750. So I have tags like one more turn, right? Every time they mention one more turn, I do that.
Say that we, on day one, we said, this has got to have one more turn. We actually didn't realize there was such a thing as one more turn until really the game was out there, and we started getting feedback from players. And we would get these letters like, I couldn't stop playing. I looked up at the clock and it was 3 o'clock in the morning. So we said, well, we got to figure out what's going on here, because this is unique. This is cool. How do we make sure that we
Guys, I'm getting self-conscious now about my notes.
keep this? And so we kind of analyzed what was happening, and it was this idea of the game giving you short-term and medium-term and long-term goals that were all kind of in your mind at one time. And you might complete a short-term goal, but bang, another short-term goal popped up, and you're still working on this medium-term goal. And there was never a time in the game where you were kind of had completed everything that you wanted to do. You're always looking forward to, when I get that new technology, I can do this. When I explore that new continent, this is going to happen. So there's always these things that you're looking forward to.
It's good you're taking notes. Most don't. Yeah. I don't think it's possible to do a project like this without any notes. Like, the only reason I could do it with EU4 was I knew the game really well. And even then, I would do like extensive outlines, but I didn't incorporate all these like secondary sources. So I think it's a lot better. I think the video is going to be a lot better because of it.
The game is actually playing out in your mind, anticipating what's happening. You're almost not playing at the moment. You're playing into the future, and
so this is what I do. I take like these notes, not playing in the moment, playing into the future, because Sid Meier has all these amazing quotes every time.
and then that future is just one more turn ahead. So
I was kind of, last week when I did a research stream, I was kind of making fun of this idea of the one more turn. And then this week when I was playing Civ 5, it happened to me multiple times where I would be like, okay, I need to get up. And then I just wouldn't for like 20 more turns. So it's definitely effective. And it's not something I feel in EU4, for example. There's something about the turns that creates a really satisfying pacing. So I realized the audio is all messed up. This is too loud. Yeah, that's better. The formula works. It does. It does. And that's why people like turn-based games. I always found that turn-based games are so much less appealing to me in other contexts, like turn-based RPGs. I've never gotten into because I feel like it's less immersive. However, something about turn-based strategy just doesn't have that effect. Like, it doesn't bother me at all, and I don't know why. And I think it's what he's talking about with this, like, you're always looking to the next thing and you're always planning ahead and the future is just one turn away. That really is how Civ feels. Because every turn there's a new tech you got to choose. There's a new production you got to choose. There's your unit is now in place or something. There's something going on. What does immersion mean to you? When it comes to RPGs, I would say, like, the reason I don't connect with turn-based RPGs is probably because I don't feel embodied in the character as much. I think that's what it comes down to. Something like, you know, Baldur's Gate. I didn't buy the new Baldur's Gate, but it's on my list. But I played Divinity Original Sin and I could not like get into it for some reason. Do I blame the developer? No. It's just like a preference thing. People love those games, so I'm not shitting on the game. But yes, sound design is huge for these things because like, yeah, everything coming in, new tech, quote, units shuffling around. It's funny because the quotes have been a problem with recording for me for this project. So I click through them really quick because they're much louder and, you know, our brains, when they hear human voices, we listen more. And like, I can't have this video analysis where there's someone else talking in the background at some point. So I have to click through the quotes really quickly. And I have music off as well, for the same reason, because I want to layer music at the end. You tend to admire the developer that puts in the work. That's how you get immersed. But like, are there developers not putting in the work? I mean, whatever. That's not a good question. It's more like, there must be games that you can respect, but you don't get immersed in, right?
We've created this phenomenon that we really didn't anticipate, but we're now proud to claim. So my advice, if you find yourself in the valley of despair, is to try something new and different. We have another rule, which is the double it or cut it in half rule, which is if you're going to make a change, make it dramatic. If the number's wrong, you know, don't add 10% or take away 3%. You know, double it or cut it in half. You know, so that if you try a lot of kind of dramatic changes, something is going to stick. Something's going to work. And it's going to show you a new direction, and you can climb out of the valley of despair.
Tours. Mm-hmm. But there's got to be games that are like, sometimes everything is such high quality, but it just doesn't connect with you, right? And same with films. Like, there's got to be a movie you're like, wow, great movie, but not for me, kind of thing.
When the 25th anniversary of Civilization rolled around, I realized we had in our basement...
Pretty unbiased. Really? That's crazy. But how do you explain that people don't agree? Like, how do you explain how people have different preferences for stuff?
Some of the original computers that were used to create the game, I thought it would be fun to try to resurrect those. There were actually two of these compact Death Pro 386 computers that I'd saved for all those years, and we brought them in here and tried to fire them up. One of them actually exploded when we plugged it in. There was a bunch of dust around the power supply that caught fire, and the fan...
Jeez, where is this going?
Blew flames out the back of it, so we shut that one down. But we were able to fire this computer up. The only problem was the battery had died, and we couldn't boot it because there was no power. We finally managed to do that by finding a floppy disk, but now we can't turn the machine off because we won't be able to turn it back on again. So it's been running here for over a year. But this is the computer that the majority of Civ development was done on. And it's running the fabulous DOS operating system here. So I'm going to go into the directory, which is called Civilize, and run this early version of the game. Here are the options. This is where it starts. Start a new game, Earth, play on the Earth. This is the beginning of Civilization here. So we'll start a new game. An early version of our intro sequence. This is really Something we did to make this game feel epic. These are all kind of temporary graphics that I
So even Civ 1 had this like intro cinematic situation.
did with D-Paint, and finally hired a real artist to eventually replace these. And to me, this is the classic Civilization visual, that first settler, the tiny little bit of the world revealed, and the rest of the world to explore. Basically, anything can happen from this point on. Where do you place your city? What's going to happen next? It's all ready to unfold in the epic saga of Civilization.
Right, that section at the end was a little weird, but that was a good video. I got a lot out of that. More than most videos, I would say. You win some, you lose some. Well, I definitely agree with that. Sometimes, like, the plan is good, and then the result is terrible. I'm looking at an Alpha Centauri review. Oh, you can see this, actually. Looking at this review. I do want to check those Alpha Centauri and other spin-off games out eventually. But I think that's kind of all I had planned for this stream. It's pretty useful. Let's see. Got that one, that one, that one. We went through 4 videos today. That's crazy. So I might end it here, and then next time we stream, I will do the Civ 4. I think that's the plan. Great stream. I appreciate it. It's kind of short, but these note-taking streams, like, they're kind of exhausting. Never played Alpha Centauri, but please look up the Longevity Vaccine Project video. I will do that. Earned a sub? Wait, you didn't come from... You weren't already subbed? How did you find this stream? What the hell? That's kind of crazy. So you haven't even seen the EU4 video? You're just here? Algorithm? What? That is not... That is very surprising. Okay. All right, let me look up this video real quick. Is this something I can look up? This one? It's 30 seconds.
Hey, get off my land, you peacekeeping son of a...
I plan to live forever, of course. But barring that, I'd settle for a couple thousand years. Even 500 would be pretty nice. CEO Wabuda K. Morgan. Morgan Link 3D Vision interview.
Wow. Okay. That definitely needs to be stored in my brain. So thanks for that. I'm going to put that in the notes somewhere. I don't know where. We make a note for Alpha Centauri. That is crazy. Okay, so next stream, we will do Civ 4. We will. Thank you to everyone for coming. Oh! Fish, you came at the end. Fishy fish.
On the
no. Alpha Centauri is such a good game? Really? Okay. Now I need to research this because, well, it's not that I've heard any negative reviews, but I just don't know anything about it. And we're doing a Civ 5 analysis. And when did Alpha Centauri come out? Like 2018? Wait, what? Oh, this is the original. Wait, what am I thinking of? 1999. I completely confused it with something else. Ryan Reynolds was the lead on it? Okay. Yeah, it has all the original dudes from Civ. It's basically just a Civ game, but different, huh? 1999. Okay, now I know. We will check that out. Maybe next time we'll do like an overview of some of the games before Civ 5 and take notes on each of those. And do some Civ 4 gameplay, stuff like that. I gotta think about it a little more, plan it out, but that sounds like a good idea. Civ in space does sound fun. Civ 4 has the best quotes. Okay. Everyone loves Civ 4. I'm excited to look into it because it has the best everything. There you go. Well, we'll find out. The Civ 5 quotes, not Civ 4, Civ 5 quotes, sometimes I fucking hate them, but sometimes they're fine. Like the one up with the horse, I guess maybe it's like a meme. But when he says like, "My kingdom for a horse" from Richard III, that one triggers me every time. I'm like, God damn it. I don't know why. I have a strong emotional response to it. Yeah, Leonard Nimoy. I remember in the 2010s, a lot of people had Leonard Nimoy as their like Steam. Oh, I'm fond of pigs. Yes. Why does that like? They did it for fun. Like, it's funny, but it's just part of the charm, I guess. Yeah, it's not really that you misspelled it, but it's okay. I got what you meant. But I remember everyone on Steam had Leonard Nimoy as their like a username for a while for some reason in like TF2, the early days of TF2. Probably because of that. Well, if you're fond of deconstruction videos, you're in the right place. This is going to be like at least 2 hours, probably 2 to 5. Possibly longer, but I doubt it. My U4 deconstruction was 5. All right, people. This was a good stream. Thank you for coming. Lots of history in the series? Yeah, you could say there's a lot of history. You could say it's all history. All right, I'll leave you on that terrible joke.